Last text from you is also like,
Sure. Let's talk about peeing on the tree.
no, close.
Everyone. I'm trying to let.
Like,
Naturally reach a conclusion. Welcome to our January 16th, 2025 meeting. Happy New Year. I am Matthew Franklin, Chair of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission for 21 minutes. I'd like to note that we are starting the meeting at 7:03 p.m. We are live streaming the meeting on NBC's YouTube channel. Our board administrator has confirmed that we have an in-person forum. Special welcome to our new commissioner, Maureen Kaufman, who's a colleague. I will give you a chance to just say a few brief words before we do more than a golf clap, but less than raucous applause, perhaps. But over to you, Ms. Kaufman.
Maybe I'll earn the raucous applause, who's to say, but thank you so much for welcoming me here. We are actually in my neighborhood as we sit. I'm super lucky to live in Arlington, but especially to live on the corridor where so many of NVTC's investments just really shine through. I have the opportunity to metro, bike, walk, scooter, take the bus every day. And that's a real key reason that I've been able to stay in this community and become such a part of our civic organization. So happy to give back to the transportation community now that has given me so much, and just happy to be in this group of really knowledgeable, talented, passionate folks.
Great. I guess I would say that deserves a rock.
Aw.
I will not think back to my first few sentences a little while ago for left. You caught the Mr. Karen Clements and anything they haven't outworked on buses and bikes. Walking, so, but I try to do my best. So great. So glad you're with us. She will be stepping in for Ms. Garvin, who retired from our board. I trust everyone has a chance to review the agenda. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight. I still have a daughter. I still seek to get home to her before 9:30. And so, but some of that will be Mr. Snyder. We're going to swear in new officers as well as appointing board and committee members. We look back on 2024 and what's in store for 2025. We have a resolution on, this is important, and through, we have a resolution on NVTC's guiding principles for future transit funding and our usual reports. To help us move us through, I'm proposing we do block votes where we can, unless there are any objections. Hearing none, let's get started. Kate, we have general public comments this month.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we did have one public comment regarding some confusing signage at Amtrak stop in Woodbridge. So we do recognize that that's not necessarily the purview of this commission, but we do plan on forwarding those that should be aware of that comment.
Great, thank you. Maybe Mr. Wilson will take that comment. As previously mentioned, the Arlington County Board appointed Ms. Kaufman to NVTC. There's one more thing, Maureen, that I didn't mention, but perhaps I hope you're aware of. We will have a ceremonial oath of office, and I just want to make sure I've got the oath handy. Yes, I do. And so we will meet. I'm trying to think of where the paper, just right over here, and we'll do a picture that hopefully will be quick enough so it's not too short. But first, we got the oath. So thank you for coming on. So raise your right hand, and I'll break this up so it's not too long. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth of Virginia.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And that I will faithfully discharge all the duties incumbent upon me.
And that I will faithfully discharge all of the duties incumbent upon me
As a member of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, according to the best of my ability.
throughout the Northern Virginia Transportation,
According
according to the best of my ability.
Well done. Thank you for working. Thank you. Perfect. I did once read the whole thing, Mark.
All the way
So you
through.
know. And, keep looking.
Some folks have better memories than I.
No, that was great. Thank you so much. So we have the minutes. The next item is minutes and meeting summary. You have the minutes, December 5th commission meeting and the meeting summary of December 13th joint legislative forum. which I thought went really well. Full credit to Kate and the team. Does anyone have any objection to voting on those two items in block? Can I have a motion to approve the December 5th minutes and the December 13th meeting summary? So moved.
Second.
Moved, Mr. Alcorn, seconded by Ms. Bagley. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, we move on to 4, the moment we have been anticipating. The executive committee recommends the following slate of officers for 2025. Chair Dave Snyder from the City of Falls Church, Vice Chair Sarah Bagley from the City of Alexandria, and Secretary Treasurer Matt Letourneau from Loudoun County. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the recommended slate of officers? Mr. Carantonis.
Second.
Second by Ms. Bierman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? The motion passes. Congratulations to our new officers. Please first give a round of applause to our new officers. Now, if the new officers would join me up front to the oath of office.
Probably just be care of tonight. I'm a little.
Maybe you're right. So I will break this up as well. The oath of the officers will first raise your right hand. And just share, I just solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Commonwealth.
Has anything they want to say, I would encourage that, but let me first highlight, it really was an amazing year. An awful lot got done as a result of the work of each and every member of this commission, they and her entire staff. We had our 60th anniversary here. We advocated for additional state aid to help Armada. It is a pivotal year for the launching of DMV Move in the FCA subcommittee. The MBTP Metro operating funding and reform looking forward. Route 7 work that continues. The transition to zero emission buses, the commuter choice program, really set records this year. So just an amazing record of success for our commission, and especially for Matt. So we have a resolution for Matt, and I would motion to approve the resolution of commendation.
So
Second. Thank you. We can second.
Play over on.
No, wait. Now, is there any further discussion? Does anybody want to make any comments at all? Yes.
can I just say, in addition to everything that you just said, Matt, thank you for sharing and keeping us apprised of the progress of your family. And very much appreciate your priorities in the right place and helping us get out at reasonable hours.
I just want to add that Matt is, despite my having being a challenge, Matt is unfailingly unflappable, kind, and civil, as well as being effective. Amazing job. So we entertain then a motion to approve the resolution. Has it been made and seconded? It's been made. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstention. Item passes unanimously. Thanks very much. So we can't let Matt go without the official copy of the resolution, and we'll do a photo here. And yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks to everyone. Moving on through the action items on the agenda, no objections. I'll propose that we vote the next three action items as a block vote for resolutions number 2548, 2549, and 2550. Review the actions prior to the vote. The blue sheeted resolution number 2548 at your place. Some of these actions may be contingent on some action by local boards and councils as their NBTC appointments may not be known by January 16, 2025. We have some that are in that situation. Yeah, okay.
Not everybody. For maybe a moment.
Okay. So, action item 4C, resolution 2548, approve the selection of NBTC representatives to various boards. And the information should be available. Action item resolution number 2549, approve the recommended NBTC to move membership. Again, and then approve resolution 2550, which will approve the designation of NBTC signatories. Does anybody have any objection if we vote on these things as well? I see no objection. Any discussion on any of the items? Then I'm not seeing any agreement with hearing. I entertain a motion to approve resolution 2548 to approve the NBTC board appointments for 2025. Resolution 2549 to NBTC committee membership for 2025. And resolution 2550 with NBTC signatories and trustees. Do I have a motion to approve those resolutions?
Motion to approve, items 4C, 4D, and 4E.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion or any comments? No, all those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That one passes unanimously. Next on the consent agenda. This again is a request for authorizing director Richard McCray proposal. The National Transit Data NTB technical support. 5B, approve resolution 2551, authorizing the NBTC executive director to submit an application for community project funding grant for the Federal Transit Administration Item 5C, authorize the chair to sign a letter of endorsement for Loudoun County's grant application for Greenwater Community. And then there's a blue sheeted endorsement letter for Loudoun County's grant application. Does anyone have any objections if we did? Okay, not seeing any objections. Then, expect, Alan will remain the same. Kate, are there any comments or any summaries you want to do with these three items, just, for backup information?
Sure, just, I'm happy to do so, Mr. Chair. So the National Transit Database technical support is something that we provided to the jurisdictions, for actually many decades. What happens is that our localities actually submit data on the operations of their transit systems, and it goes towards the allocation of federal formula funding that actually, WMATA gets. And this is something, again, they've been doing for many decades, is actually ensuring that the locale, or so that our region gets the benefit of our local transit systems. While they don't receive federal formula funding, but actually WMATA's capital program grows because of it. So that's the first one. The second one, is just the final, documentation to support, the work we have going on Route 7. This is the, community project funding grant we got from Congressman Byer and Connolly. So this is just a resolution of support so we can apply for that federal grant. And the last one, the Loudoun County asked us to endorse a micro transit project application for one of the discretionary programs of the Department of Rail.
Any questions for Kate? Any questions at all on these items? Yes.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kate. I'm pretty excited about Loudoun's Weaver Micro Transit grants. Especially because it's connecting with, I know, with medical campus. I know we've been finding some solutions. One that, the technology was outdated, that we were hoping to get to, but I guess my question is this the first time we've done one for micro transit pilot like this?
I don't know. I don't recall any other microtransit grant applications here under NDTC. And I can definitely follow up on that. I do know that there are a microtransit project that OmniRide has been doing, but I do not believe there's any grants, but I have to get back to you on that.
Okay, no, it's wonderful, and if you have more information on it, you can just look it up. I'd love to hear more about the program. If there's anything beyond the left.
Yeah, we know there's a lot of that.
Love it, want to steal
Right.
it.
A lot of that, like, public,
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe we can, do a little research on that. Yes.
I'm just reading, I'm a little confused actually, because, our board did approve a microtransit pilot, but we didn't necessarily approve the region of the county where we wanted the microtransit pilot. Or vote on that. So the application, the grant application, I'm assuming came from our staff, which we always encourage them to do that. I'm looking a little bit at the scope here and it says Leesburg out to Inova and then also the last mile. So does that mean that it's also going to go down like to the metro of Leesburg?
So I'll defer to the Loudoun County staff. They're the ones that provide us information on the scope of this. We typically, when it's a transit or transit related, we ask for an endorsement. So this is the information we received from your staff, from the county staff.
So we're just endorsing the grant application, is that what we're
So
doing?
this is a letter that would accompany the county's application to say that NDTC endorsed it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. So this isn't like awarding the funds yet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, by any chance, do you know what the deadline would be for this?
The dear, and actually, we have the, would you like to speak to the deadline?
February 1st, our grant round, goes
February 1st.
Yeah, through February 1st.
So yeah, I think we have probably a little bit of an internal communication issue. No, it's not an MBTC issue.
Not your issue.
So we will work that out. It was a surprise to Supervisor Briskman and I, because this, as probably the two big advocates for this program, this isn't necessarily where we were envisioning it. So we'll have those conversations. Let's not stop the process now, but we'll have those conversations.
What's your desire, what from Loudoun County standpoint is your desire that we continue and take the action tonight?
Yeah.
Amend the action, or that we strike it and bring it up
Well, the deadline's February first, so I don't really want to stop anything. I mean, I think Supervisor Letourneau would probably agree, we should go ahead and let it go through. I mean, it's the specific application is for Leesburg, so I don't think once it's granted, we can change the location of the microtransit pilot, but.
Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna suggest, should the letter be generalized?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not give a specific location.
Strike out the Leesburg.
Yeah, it's.
Well, but it also says Market Street, Innova's Medical Campus, and Last Mile Connections, so, I mean, it's pretty far, it's pretty far to go from Leesburg to the metro, so, in my opinion, that probably is better than I do, the actual distance.
I don't think it's going to metro,
Then last mile to what?
not the bus.
Another bus?
The bus.
Yeah, because Leesburg has fixed route service. That's actually part of the issue. We were thinking about this, where there isn't fixed route service.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Marcus, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, the only, no, I mean, I cannot. There are several jurisdictions that are considering microtransit. Our jurisdiction, for example, has it in its transit master plan. One, but it is a good thing that we support these. In principle, they're very, very useful. What doesn't, and there are several places in Virginia that have already, you know, it's a mixed bag of experience. Very, very well, others less so. And it's a good thing to do pilots. What I want to just underline is that it is important to begin to think about what are the standards, you know, the quality, the performance standards. It makes a big difference if you have, for example, like we had in this conversation here, a bus, a microtransit system going into a bus hub, or just, you know, connecting different points or a system that connects to one very high performance point from a variety of destinations, etc. There are many ways to run the microtransit system. They are very different in the way they work. So maybe slowly but steadily we begin here to have to grow some competence and think about what performance.
Right, so no objection.
Absolutely no objection. I'm all for it.
There's no objection, I would ask staff to do some work on microtransit and some research and brief. And on microtransit standards and those kinds of things. Yes, it was already allowed.
One more question on these grants. I'm assuming that, the 2 million is probably matching funds, correct? So there's an expectation that the county would be putting matching funds for a microtransit program that serves a town. Is that what happens? There's matching funds from the county, so it's.
So I am 2 months in my role.
Oh, I'm
as a
sorry.
director. No, please don't be sorry. I will get you an answer.
Okay.
This is discretionary demonstration projects, funding that they are requesting. So oftentimes, for example, a microtransit project is presented as a pilot. And we're evaluating how it goes and whether or not to continue the success. And, I don't know off the top of my head if there's a match required. Jen, do you know? We will get back to you.
Thank you. All right. I'll-
And to the commission.
I will stop later. Recommendation.
These are, I mean, endorsement letters obviously are, they're the request of the jurisdiction, but they're very much if the jurisdiction wants to modify. We do not need to send an endorsement letter or even modify if the county has changed their direction. There will definitely be other opportunities for us to be supporting microtransit as we move forward.
I think we're getting to the point of asking Loudoun County what they would like us to do with this action, so.
I have a suggestion that I hope can work for the two of you. You're in charge. What if we just move 5C? And someone says as part of the motion, subject to the wording changes as determined by the NBTC Loudoun board members.
Sounds like a motion.
Yeah.
Seconded.
That's my motion. Second. Is that okay with you guys?
yeah, that's fine.
Write it however you want, we're passing, if you want a letter, you got it, and if you decide no letter, you don't got it. And it doesn't have to be this language, this is the motion.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've endorsed micro.
We put money into a pilot program.
We did put my, yeah.
We didn't get the feedback loop on how this was proceeding, so it may be that this is 100% makes sense and we gotta do it and all that, but we need to do a little. So.
Thank you. That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, so, because we have discussion on it, let me break the consent agenda. 5A5D. We're having walks, I'm not hearing any discussion on those, I'm not hearing any discussion on those, any desire to pull them out.
Move 5A and 5B.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, okay, those are unanimously. Now, we'll take a motion on agenda item 5C.
I move that we authorize the chair to send a letter of endorsement for Loudoun County's grant application to DRPT, subject to the wording, refinements advanced by the NVTC Loudoun County members.
Any discussion, is that acceptable without?
It is.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, motion's been made and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you, that item is unanimous. Next item is the NVTC fiscal year review. And so Kate, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indeed, 2024 was a busy year, exciting year, a lot focused around our 60th anniversary. And so, as we often do, we want to highlight that with a short film, as well as we have our latest annual report for you as well, and that will be posted online. The Great Comms team here put that all together. So I think I see the film is queued up. We'll do that, and then we'll talk a little bit about 2025.
The Northern Virginia Transportation Commission has many reasons to celebrate in 2024. We honored the 60th anniversary of NVTC with policy forums and celebrations, played a significant role in locking in state funds to keep Metro running, notched records in our commuter choice program, published important information to aid in the growth and evolution of our transit network, and laid a foundation for finding long-term sustainable funding for all of our transit systems. NVTC was founded in 1964 to represent the Commonwealth of Virginia in planning a rapid transit network for the Capital Region. Over our 6 decades, NVTC's mission and role has expanded exponentially. Our work now touches every transit agency operating in Northern Virginia, while our research has influence across Virginia and even throughout the nation. Beyond celebrating our anniversary, we spent much of 2024 working on long-term and sustainable funding for public transit. We recognize that Metro, Virginia Railway Express, and the other transit agencies operating in Northern Virginia face an existential crisis and long-term funding needs. The change in commuting patterns and inflation accelerating existing structural funding problems, serving as a call to action. NVTC proactively identified a 2-step approach to addressing the funding crisis. First, securing immediate additional funding for Metro, and then driving efforts to examine long-term and sustainable funding solutions for all transit operators here in Northern Virginia. We also celebrated milestones in our commuter choice program, reaching 7 million trips in the I-66 and I-395/95 corridors since the program started in 2017. Transit ridership in our region has also reached a new post-pandemic high, with now more than 2 million people using public transit here in Northern Virginia each and every week. Other 2024 highlights include launching our Regional Zero Emission Bus Strategic Plan, identifying near-term bus improvements in advance of BRT on Route 7, publishing research on the climate benefits of transit, and sharing in the groundbreaking of the new Long Bridge, which will be a game changer for VRE and Amtrak passenger rail. 2024 was a milestone year for NVTC's history, but this regional agency is always looking forward. The work we do today can take years or even decades to reveal its benefits. As such, I'm encouraged by the regional efforts today to improve the Northern Virginia transit network of tomorrow. 2024 was a great year for MVTC, and now I look forward to an even bolder and stronger new year.
At least I was only on there for a little bit. But indeed, you know, we've got fantastic staff on our communications team, doing script writing, all of the photographs, and obviously putting the film together. So it's just great. So thank you for that. And really, indeed, it is, you know, last year, I think this year as well, our foundational years as we look forward. And so as I look ahead and talk about what's happening in 2025, you know, obviously, we're continuing our strong, effective management of our public transit money, et cetera. But we're really going to be all hands on deck, focused on the long-term financial options that can be available to our local transit systems. Through our WMATA committee and the Legislative and Policy Committee, we're going to be doing a lot of work associated with DMV News and the SJ28 and other things to work towards that long-term solution, very much for an eye on the 2026 General Assembly session. Our Program Advisory Committee is going to be diving into other key activities this year. As you mentioned, you know, we put the strategic plan for the Route 7 BRT together last year. We just talked about that next phase of planning that is being sponsored by some congressional funds. But that's going to be really a monumental public outreach and other engagement on Route 7, really kicking off later this year. We are doing the 395-95 corridor commuter choice program this year. You're actually going to get a preview of what was applied for. That's going to be happening. And then in the fall, we'll be doing the I-66 call for projects. In the meantime, though, we are doing a bigger examination about how people are moving on I-66 since the pandemic. So you're going to be hearing updates along the way. So again, that's something that's really getting full steam this year. And so in general, we obviously have a lot of things that are going on. We're queuing up to have a full year, both on the funding, long-term funding sustainability, as well as our other program activities. So stay tuned. Lots of exciting committee meetings in particular. We'll be fleshing things and really getting down to details, and of course, bringing to the commission for action. So that is what I have for you, Mr. Chair.
Questions or comments about not seeing any. Thanks a lot, Kate. Thank you so much. You and your staff. Those are great. Next agenda item is Metro. Followed by the reports of the chair of the WMATA committee. I don't include that.
Yes, so the big news for us since the last time we met is that the general manager submitted his proposed FY26 budget to the board of directors. Thankfully, I don't think we're going to spend nearly as much time talking about the budget this year as we did last year. For everybody's benefit, the 26 budget has the new Metro bus formulas that we discussed previously incorporated, as well as the Better Bus Network. We also discussed at our last meeting. There's several service optimization concepts in the budget that are paid for with savings from more efficient rail operation and more use of 6-car trains where they can meet demand. I think the kind of the story of the budget is savings that Metro has been able to generate through management action, as well as increased revenue through higher than anticipated ridership. So both are very good things. There's a proposal in the budget to operate more trains on the Silver Line from Wheelie Reston to Stadium Armory, eastbound, and Morning Peak and westbound. And then system-wide, we would close at 2 a.m. and open at 6 a.m. on weekends. I know whenever we talk about hours of operation, those of you that have been on the commission for a while will think back to the days where we were really concerned about what they call wrench time, which is, you know, how much time we have to do overnight maintenance. That was the reason why we started closing earlier in the first place, way back when. But the good news is, through the use of technology and better management, we are much more effective with our wrench time now, and we need less of it. We need less system closure time to be able to accomplish the same amount of work, and that will allow us to have longer operating hours. The budget's just under $5 billion between operating and capital. There is the expected 3% year-over-year increase. I know the 3% cap was waived by the General Assembly over a multiple year period. But for, jurisdictional budgeting purposes, you should expect a 3% increase this year. And then there's a one-time savings replacement of the 95 million, which was previewed by WMATA staff. One of the objectives is to try to lower the amount of preventive maintenance transfer that we were using. We use that to plug the gap in the past. It is not a great practice to be using your preventive maintenance in that way. We were within norms. It wasn't anything crazy. It's not going to get us back into the days of Metro not doing what it needs to do to stay safe, but it does create longer term capital funding problems when you're using all of the significant amount of money that accumulates in that way. So this year's budget has 69 million budgeted in the GM's proposal for that purpose versus 121 million last year, so almost half. With that, our hope is to continue to try to postpone this capital funding cliff that we've been talking about. It's still a real thing. It's still going to happen, but I think the message is that we're trying to do everything we can to try to push it off as long as possible, give the region as much time as it can to come up with kind of the solve to all of this. One big thing to be excited about at Metro will be open payment across all modes. So once implemented, Metro customers will be able to use contactless debit cards, credit cards, or even your smartwatch without ever needing a Smart Trip card. So if you've been in New York City, they have that system. It's more complicated for us. They have a flat fare, we don't. So the back end technology on this has taken some time to work through, but it's been a priority for us. It's much more customer friendly. And it further reduces the excuse not to pay because it's easier. We will have an extensive engagement process for this year's budget. We have a public hearing at the Eisenhower building on Monday, February 3rd at 6 o'clock, as well as a virtual public hearing the following day at noon. The public comment period will close on Monday, February 10th. We will be having our capital program work session in 2 weeks on January 30th. We'll be taking a deeper dive into several components of the capital budget. That's been the focus of the board to understand some of these big long-term programs. I know, in DMV moves, people want to know and understand if the region invests, where is that money going to go to? And we know we have significant costs like our signaling system and the potential to further expand automated train operations, which could lead to savings costs on the operating budget. But we want to get as granular as we can, even though we're at an early stage on some of those programs. We won't be able to tell you exactly what it's going to cost to do these things, but the staff has been working hard with the consultant to try to bring forward. We'll be getting some of that information on January 30th and then some throughout the rest of the year. And then we're hoping to adopt the final budget in March. So that is kind of your budget update. I'll turn it over to Paul for a few other operational related sort of things.
So thank you, Matthew. We just have 3 items we want to highlight. First, we had mentioned at the last meeting, the organization is at a point now and got approval from the Safety Commission. We're working in automated train operation. And on December 15th, that started on the Red Line, working as planned and moving forward towards system-wide
staff would want, but you know, the public is watching the whole thing.
So I just want to make sure that the public standpoint. See everything here.
Is that true, Melissa, the public can hear and see everything?
It's still streaming on YouTube, oddly. Henley is joined, so we haven't dropped the feed, just the visual.
Okay.
Oh, we're good. We're still, the public's still able to see the news. Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks for that. I'll be report from Metro. Any questions or comments? So what are we in terms of ridership at this point compared to pre-pandemic?
I don't know if I have an exact number, Mr. Chairman, I could probably get it. I think where we were hovering, certainly weekday ridership, we were approaching 100. I think we're hovering overall probably in the 80s to mid 80s pre-pandemic. It is a little bit more situational day of the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are those days where we're pretty much back to where we were.
Mr. Chair, I think if you look at the daily numbers overall, we're hovering somewhere between 900 and 900,000 to 950,000.
How does that compare to?
Well, bus is been back for a while. In fact, it's even higher, and the rail is slowly, I mean, each trigger, each keeps going up. And then again, the big question mark here is the federal workforce.
We used to refer to, way back, we used to refer to the Orange Crush being the evening rush hour, practically evening rush hour. I was on the Orange Line yesterday and the Orange Crush is back.
Oh, yeah, it
was
definitely is,
nice.
yeah, and the red line, I mean, there are definitely periods where certain lines have, people waiting on platforms.
Yeah. Good to see the return on ridership.
Yeah.
I guess I could use a refresher. I feel like momentum keeps moving. And I've been sort of arguing that if the momentum keeps moving, we can get there. I don't remember, automated trains, still an operator in the train, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because I imagine, it seems super tested, but having that go smoothly, and if there's a hiccup, addressing it quick. I know you guys know, I just thought I'd say that out loud because, so it's great to hear that folks that operators would still be there to reassure or address safety issues, if any were to come up, even though the data is showing the automated mistake at least as safe as operator.
Oh, safer.
Yes.
So, that has a lot to do also with the signaling system. Like I was in Paris this summer and their most highly trafficked line is now automated. The one that goes to the Champs-Élysées, there is no operator. It's fully automated. We're not designed for that type of automation right now. So, we still have the operator there, but one interesting thing was the implementation of ATO alone will save us between $8 and $10 million in the fiscal year because of the cost savings from each trip getting a couple minutes faster because of automation.
Great.
And that is even.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
With the budget.
Well, the budget is-
Assuming
it is.
For clarification.
there is. Yep.
Thanks. Questions or comments for our board members? Yeah.
Very quick. So the plan to get, at least for a while, Paris Ways back to the offices, is there a plan, that will add that plan to be extra welcoming and, have a communication strategy that says, well, welcome back to the system, please choose to use Metro. Many people won't be very happy to return to the office, but at least they should be happy with the service that we provide. Is there a possibility to do that? I know that because I'm saying that because we are trying to build up a case in support for the new administration to support public transit.
Yeah,
I have not heard that there's a specific communication communications campaign, I think at the moment, you know, we need to wait and see what transpires. What I would say, and certainly I know Kate speak to this, because of the federal transit benefits, the extent of employees have to come back, we are kind of the carrier of choice, so to speak, because of that benefit, somewhat uniquely compared to even the private sector. So, you know, I think from an operations standpoint, I know there have been discussions and meetings with the team about accommodating those employees should they all come back suddenly or at once. And I think we're confident that we have the capacity to be able to do that.
Yeah, they've been working with OMB for a while, even for. Or not OMB, OPM, sorry.
And we'll
We've been working with OMB.
discover a completely new system. I mean, you know, some may not recognize that.
Thanks. Mr. Alcorn, you see.
Thank you, Chair Schneider. Just a very quick report. There's an issue that we have related to timing and meeting timings. So we have one action item, which is going to authorize the chair of the WMATA committee to submit the FY 2026 proposed budget comments to WMATA by their February 10th deadline. And the problem is the WMATA committee does not meet until February 20th. We are going to be sharing several comment letter themes with the full commission tonight, and Adam can cover those in just a moment. So if we could, I guess, this evening have any discussions on any issues that might need to be included in the comment letter in the coming meetings. As we've already heard, this is a relatively straightforward budget, at least relative to last year. And we are in Virginia in the second year of a 2-year budget cycle. But that said, let's hear if there are themes that we do want to make, and if folks have other comments, well, go ahead.
Great, thank you, Chair Alcorn. Pulling that slide up, it has a couple of themes mentioned. Here we go. So on the left, I'll cover these again, just briefly tonight. These are some things that we're going to build into a comment letter for the FY budgets. Again, comment letters we will better. The first here on the left, we're going to see implementation of the 2025 federal bus network. We know that our jurisdictional partners are working closely with Metro staff for the details. Look forward to see the network launch in summer. Second, we support Metro for working to advance the service optimization concepts. Earlier mentioned, a reminder, these are not our additional subsidy, but plan is to pay these investments for the savings. These are the 6 current trains. Next, we think Metro's done a really good job of telling the story around cost savings. We identified that in December, $532 million of cost savings between FY 2022 and FY 2025. So as the region continues working toward that long-term solution, we want Metro to continue to tell that story and focus on ways to, again, find those one-time recurring cost savings opportunities. We're also supportive of the proposals implemented with payment and the last GM back in December. It's the plan is to have open payment ready for operational rail side by May. A pretty quick timeline here, so again, we're supportive of that and look forward to that coordination taking place. And then lastly, on the capital program, we are supportive of Metro focusing on safety and repair and where the necessary enhancements come along with that. The capital program work session on January 8th, checking more like future concepts in the capital program, mention efforts, what kind of adjustment we are required to meet those. So again, those conversations are also taking place as well. So as far as the timeline, we plan to distribute a full letter to commissioners Tuesday, February 14th. And that's after the capital program work session that the session on January 30th, as well as the Virginia public hearing on February 3rd. We'll then work with Chair Alcorn finalize the letter and submit it to the notified. So we're hoping for kind of a 2-day window to make sure we have the right details and information for the comment letter. Get that out to commissioners, ask for your feedback, and then either are they taking any questions on the letter or
So tonight, I think, you've heard a summary of the themes. Question tonight is, are there some themes that you would like added, or you have any strong objection to any of the themes that we'll mention? And there'll be adequate opportunity to review the actual letter on the part of all the commissioners, and that's the chair of the committee. Any additional?
No, you said it.
Yes.
I don't know, I'm not as close to it, but I guess I would wonder. There's some buses, I used to take the 42 and it goes Farragut Square up to DuPont. I live in Kellerman. Where I think there are a ton of people who could pay who are just not paying. And so, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about that issue. And I'm not dogmatic, I'm just wondering if that is a theme that is worth adding. Not because I have some punitive desire, but because DMV Moves has to keep moving the Commonwealth in the direction that we can get dedicated long-term funding. And so I just wanted to share that thought. Ace in the latter stages, it's helpful or not helpful. And I don't know who knows the answer. And I don't think we have to figure it out today, but I think that saying it today could get us, you get a little more flexibility for you guys as you finalize the letter.
I guess maybe I would say, I don't think Metro needs to be told, so cut down on bus fare. Like, we're running the most aggressive pilot program in the history of Metro on bus fare. I'll be honest, like, I'm not gonna share, it hasn't made a huge dent.
Sure.
It's really, really hard to reduce bus fare evasion.
Yeah.
I have no problem, like, I think it's good for the pressure to stay up.
Yeah.
I think the current crop at Metro between management and the board doesn't need to be told by anybody to do this. But you know, that we're not here forever, so there's no harm in that.
Well, the addressee
but-
is you guys,
Yeah.
so it's like
So it's like,
email posturing, why do it? So,
yeah, like, I mean, Paul and I have been
Paul and I
harping
are-
on this since
okay.
before Randy started, so,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, but the whole board is there, and you know, we implemented this really aggressive pilot, you heard some of the numbers. Basically what's happened though, to be honest, is like, we were able to divert resources away from rail because the fare gates have made such a big difference, and now we're putting them on bus, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so.
Just on the open payment plan, and I was, is the May, I was thinking about World Pride coming, and I'm just kind of curious if that's part of the push, or if WMATA is like conscious of trying to be ready for that event and sort of the opportunity there.
Yeah, we're not
sure it's gonna be
We're
done.
not sure it's gonna
Okay.
be, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say because the technology, it's really the technology piece behind it. It's not so much the hardware, it's the software. And we do have, you know, we don't have your typical repairs that some of the other places have, just flat fares. So, you know, it's difficult. Yeah. to do.
But I mean, there's been a ton of planning around that event specifically.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure if it can be done by then, they'll make, I mean, I think it is a goal, so I don't know if they're gonna do.
No, I mean, I hear May, you know, and I think it'd
Yeah.
be great if it was ready, only
Yeah.
because I think that's a really opportunity to showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, WMATA's on a coordinating committee with
Wonderful.
the feds and the district and others, and the whole security folks, you know, around that, because they're expecting, I'm on it, actually, and they're expecting about 3 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, all the hotels already, you know.
That much for
So,
So, let's see, I heard one addition to the budget letter commending. There, the adjuster, something along that line. It should have made a. way to getting the system and supporting that. Take note of that. I mean, the budget, our comments on the budget don't necessarily have to be limited in numbers. We can also make a couple of thematic. Are they wrong in the movie?
And the open pavement system will help a lot of tourists, international, Dulles, you know, for the Union Station and traffic.
You know, I mean, one of the, frankly, all that's in question, you get, this is how I know. Feeling.
Great deal. Yeah.
Chair of the committee, are you comfortable with these recommendations?
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Next, so then, ask for a motion to authorize the Ramada Committee Chair to submit comments on the 2026 proposed budget for Ramada as discussed.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Aye.
Any opposition, any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Now, the next item, is very important. Where we outline our guiding principle for long-term future funding. We've had several discussions in this previously, and some changes were made to, the prior discussions. And, basically, the way we look at it is through subsequent paper for our future work. So, Karen, I'm going to leave it here, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indeed, just as we had discussed, to give some framework, especially for new folks, we do have a long history of articulating our priorities in the form of resolutions. And actually, the last major resolution on WMATA and transit funding was actually 2017, which actually led to a lot of the things we found within the 2018 legislation. And so again, this is an opportunity to memorialize the key positions. And as we sit here sort of at the beginning of a year where we anticipate conversations, discussions, recommendations, for example, coming from DMV Moves, coming from SJ 28 and elsewhere, this indeed, the resolution that we put forth to you now is a foundational work in which we expect you will probably come back with resolutions as those decisions are, again, articulating the commission's position on these key policy areas. So we do have a slide, we have a set of slides right in front of you. They're actually going to be up on the screen. But we also have the full resolution provided to the commission. But I just wanted to highlight what are in the, when it comes to really sort of the meat of the resolution. There. So in general, it's broken into 4 main areas regarding sort of what NVTC cares about. First and foremost is that we still continue, want to continue to see cost containment strategies, operational efficiencies, and other ways that we can measure progress to ensure the efficient use of taxpayer resources. Obviously, we have a history of looking at focused on WMATA, but the resolution does actually talk about how we have interest in seeing it in all of our transit systems, especially for making the case for additional. As we move to the next slide, when it comes to all transit systems across Northern Virginia, we want to make sure that there are adequate growth and revenues. So if there is a solution identified, it's not just a solution that's going to solve for 26, but it's going to be something that's growing, something that we've seen in a couple of different instances, whether it be the federal PREA funding or also the dedicated capital funding that WMATA has right now. Those were never indexed. In fact, they've been set in stone by a certain time, and they haven't grown even with inflation, never mind just over time. We are talking about preserving the existing revenues that we have available to transit, whether they be local, regional, or statewide. One of the things I know that was articulated at this board last time we met was that NVTC finds it important that we reduce pressure on property taxes of our localities as a source for funding transit. The next one is really looking at if there's a conversation about a single funding for transit, which is actually not what we have right now. So this is a good thing, but we want to be mindful that if something all of a sudden changes and it looks at a single funding source, there is a risk to that So the benefit of having a diversified set of revenues, because then you can go with different economic factors that may change revenue sources. And then finally, we do see there's value in continuing the model that we've had for so many years, which is that we have those revenues coming here to NBTC for distribution to our local bus systems, VRE and WMATA, just like we do right now within the financial management that we do for our localities. So next slide brings up and focuses on the mention, and specifically, I know Mr. Walkinshaw mentioned this last time, was when it comes to our VRE, very much focused on ensuring that the support that's being provided for VRE continues to allocate funds for NBTC and PRTC districts in a way that both of those districts are agreed upon. And as well, if there are funds identified for VRE, that they have the ability within law to be used to be bonded against. That's something that we found in other historic funding streams being a problem, so that was articulated here. And then finally, on the last slide, when it comes to looking at the priorities specific to WMATA, just go to the next slide. Thank you very much. Again, continuing the strong federal commitment to WMATA. I just mentioned PREA, that's the dedicated state of good repair funding. We want to make sure that that continues in federal law and grows for inflation. And as well, we want to continue to explore other opportunities to receive federal funding to help with operating WMATA. If it's not the transit benefits, because more employees are coming back in other ways. The second one, for the non-federal funding, when it comes to the relationship that Maryland, DC, and Virginia have with WMATA, is that we make sure that the revenue solutions that are identified for Virginia work for Virginia. There may be a conversation, it may be that Maryland, DC, and Virginia all come up with the exact same revenue source. But what we've heard from this commission is that we would like to Virginia would like to figure out our Virginia solution. And it doesn't have to be identical to what perhaps the solution for the district or Maryland. Again, that's something that we've heard from you in the past. We do want to limit, I apologize, the slides just differ a little bit between the resolution order, but it's actually the same thing. I'm actually going to, following the slides here, that we want to continue to demonstrate the shared benefit as well as responsibility of funding WMATA between our localities and the Commonwealth. And again, this is continuing to articulate that the commission would like to see at least 50% of Virginia's funding WMATA to come from the Commonwealth, come from statewide sources, rather than just from here in the district, and that's not in practice now. But we did want to say that there's also recognition within this this part of the resolution that we also have a local shared benefit or shared responsibility for contributing to that space. The next one is that we want to make sure that the revenues that may be generated in Virginia for funding WMATA, when it comes to what we pay for WMATA, it's what we owe for WMATA. So if we end up generating more revenues here than is needed for WMATA, it doesn't mean that Virginia is going to pay more for WMATA than their share. This is again more about a DC, Maryland, Virginia relationship as compared to just here in the Commonwealth. The commission did state that we wanted to make sure that any regionally generated revenue sources are raised in a consistent manner across the different jurisdictions within the NBTC district. Next, we do support WMATA developing an operating contingency reserve fund. This is something WMATA does not have right now, so we have that included in there. I think that was one that we added at our December meeting. Second to last one is that we want to make sure, just like for VRE, any revenue sources that are being established do allow WMATA to bond against them. And again, that's something that's special within code that we need to make sure happens. And then finally, and this somewhat articulates to the comment we had earlier before, we want to make sure that those who use the system help pay for the system. And obviously we want to make sure that there's strong fare bucks recovery and increased paid ridership. So again, not too different from the comment we said for the letter. So those are the main funding principles that we have in here. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
But just very quickly, so I think it's important, I don't want anybody looking at this to think that, you know, by looking at the priorities, the funding priorities, that we're not talking about cost containment and cost management strategies. It's it's very important to understand, and that's the first slide. But it's also in the resolution, whereas that, the transit funding priorities go hand in hand with the cost containment, strategy. So, but the focus, the numbered bullets are just on the funding side. But they go hand in hand, so I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, let me just read the resolve that the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission hereby seeks continued efforts. I will monitor all local public transit systems in Northern Virginia to implement cost containment strategies, generate operational efficiencies, and measure progress to ensure an efficient use of taxpayer
Thanks.
resources. So that's right there. Is
One of the results. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So I appreciate we added a little bit of the shared responsibility also in localities, which is a strategy. We want the 50%, but we also want to take responsibility. We wish, you know, that's an nature of responsibility. The question, I guess, is we'll need these for a year to 18 months at least. So you mentioned earlier tonight, I think, Kate, that there will be revisions. So from it was sort of organically every few months, if there's a burning slight tweak that we need to make, we would come to you in the chair, or we would lift it up as we need to make it, keeping an ear to where folks are in Richmond. Is that sort of no official strategy, but that's sort of what we would do?
Oh, yeah, this can be amended as well by the commission, but I think it's important, at least discussions with some basic principles. And that's what this resolution does.
Perfect. Just wanted to say out loud that I could envision later an edit or, you know, as you mentioned.
Sure. Any questions, any further questions? Yes, that is.
Just one for my clarification. Number 5, when we say that the revenue be raised in a consistent manner across MVDC districts, that means, I believe, that it means the funding sources, et cetera, have to be kind of universally, right? Or not?
I think that the idea being is that because we have 6 different jurisdictions, and I'm gonna just do a double check back to the staff, because it's been a little bit since we dove into this one, is that we'd see, or want to see a similar type of revenue, and the way it's applied in different jurisdictions being done in a consistent manner.
Correct. So
Yeah.
that the instruments that one jurisdiction applies are at least considered to be applied by the other jurisdiction and all the jurisdictions. That's the consistency thing, right? But they have to be exactly the same or be the same way.
I think will be an active discussion for policymakers and sort of figuring out the solution. I think the spirit of this is similar to how prior regional funding sources have been implemented. It's sort of the same, it can be a number of sources, but more often it's the same rate within a transportation district is kind of, I think, the spirit in which that is being thought of, and that kind of mirrors how certain sources have been put online in prior legislative funding.
I mean, this was the only principle that I had some difficulty to convey, you know, to my colleagues and others. They look consistent exactly. You know, the answer to that is, you know, one size doesn't fit all. So we have different sizes, jurisdictions, different levels of service. So why, as this happens, say consistent doesn't say equal. It's consistent. So thank you. Yes.
Might be a little bit out there, but as I'm reading through these guiding principles, those
encouraging additional and future ridership. And encouraging policies that promote ridership, which would generate additional fare box revenue. I mean, I'm not sure, but I think that's part of the benefit, at least from a funding perspective.
Chair, yes, good comment. This is what I always understood that consistent manner. That means if we do, one jurisdiction invests a lot in, the land use around transit station, we expect everybody to do something that is consistent with that as well, so that we don't lose the ability to actually make the most out of the system and cross contribute and ridership that the system needs to be connecting the region with. That's one of the things that I said, our policies have to look more consistent across the entire region. Very transit oriented courts and are less transit oriented.
So how about a generic version, like it would be a number 9 on page 5, encourages policies that promote ridership.
And then I think.
Like that's something we all support, those policies can cover a wide range.
Yeah.
of
And it's not like.
Right.
Well, no, it's just, I'll give it a little, great, okay, then number 9, page 5. Any questions, comments?
Oh, thank you. I was just mulling over it and I appreciate the work, so thank you.
Okay, any other discussion?
I think that's interesting. This is great. I also think that some way to pursue locally adopted principles, that would be a good idea. That's not an NBTC thing, but it seems like it could be good.
So that's picked up by the generic encourage policies that provide. No further discussion, entertain a motion to approve resolution 2552 with the addition of number 9, page 5, encourages policies that promote ridership. Second, any further discussion? See none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Thanks. And then we step forward. This can be brought up by the commissioners at any time. So, thanks. Thanks for that. That will really help us provide set of guidance for moving forward. So thanks again. Regional work with block sustainable dedicated funding is written reporting SJ 28. So any comments or questions on the item information items? SJ 28 as well as DMD. Okay, report from the chair of the legislative and policy committee. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to give an update on MBTC's work for this legislative session. Then I'll turn it over to MBTC's legislative liaison, provide an update on the latest enrichment. But first, congratulations to the MBTC team for another successful joint legislative event with VRE and PRTC.
I would say the best so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You said there was over 200 people that attended, and even more so that have been watching the Zoom. People are watching the replay too. Awesome. MBTC's program manager, Daniel Nigelmein, is tracking relevant bills and budget amendments in the Virginia General Assembly for impact on transit in Northern Virginia in accordance with the commission approved 2025 federal and state legislative agenda. MBTC is also monitoring the supplemental state aid for WMATA that was included in FY 25-26 budget to ensure the Commonwealth fulfills its funding commitment. Help close Virginia's FY 25 and FY 26 operating budget gap. MBTC seeks more permanent solutions to the SU study. In terms of legislation, MBTC does not have any major asks of the state legislature in this session, but it is tracking bills that have been filed understand their potential impact on transit and Northern Virginia. Everyone should have a blue item from earlier today with the latest bills that MVTC is monitoring. Please reach out to staff with any questions. While we hope this is a relatively quiet legislative session, this will be a busy year for the Legislative and Policy Committee as we gear up for a larger legislative ask in 2026. Daniel is prepared to hand out the bills we're tracking, and I'd like to turn it over to MVTC's legislative liaison. And we have both of them, Amy and Carter down in Richmond, providing a General Assembly update. So I will throw it over to the two of you. Who was going first?
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here as usual. I will try to go through this quickly since I know it's the hour is already getting a little bit late. There are a few bills that we are following this year, as well as continuing to track the WMATA budget amendment. As I think most people are aware, the governor put a decrease in the budget for about $11 million for fiscal year 2026. It was actually just a true up of the numbers. We had known that the 2026 numbers were kind of an estimate when we started. And so what we have done since the budget came out in December is WMATA staff has spent a lot of time kind of trying to figure out what that number looks like, what the difference is. They've worked with NVTC, their staff too, to kind of look it over. And it looks like instead of an $11 million reduction, it's more like an $8 million reduction. So working closely with the WMATA team, Greg and David Albo and those folks, and Senator Boysko has put a budget amendment in Delegate Sickles to true up that number. So we will be continuing to track that issue and keep an eye on making sure that number stays the same. That is the sort of budgetary stuff that we're looking at the moment. Budget amendments are just coming in. The Senate budget amendments were just posted last night. The House budget amendments still are not up. As you guys know, everything has been kind of really off kilter and off schedule because of the water delay. Well, it's not really a delay. It was we had no water at all last week in Richmond. So that was lots of fun. And session really sort of got off to a start this Monday. So everything's a little bit off. Our bill filing deadlines and et cetera have been a little bit wonky this year. So a couple bills on your tracking sheet that you can see. The first set of bills is the bills dealing with Commonwealth Mass Transit Fund. Those were bills put in by the Hampton Roads Transit. They were attempting to pull out their light rail system from the fund like VRE did 2 years ago. However, the numbers they used were, instead of being sort of retrospective, they were more prospective. And unfortunately, that has a pretty big impact on, or just an impact on the other transit systems in the Commonwealth. And so Carter and I went and spoke to both the patrons. We have talked to other folks. Kate has been in close contact with Brian at HRT. They are looking at those bills now and probably doing some serious revisions to go ahead, and when they try to pull themselves out, if they do decide to move forward with that this year, they will do it in a way that doesn't harm any of their transit systems in the Commonwealth. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that, since that's obviously a very important issue for the Northern Virginia area. I'm going to turn it over to Carter to talk a little bit about the Delegate Candy King's toll relief bill, because he had the most conversations with her about that.
Thank you, Amy, and great to see you all this evening. Hope you're having a great night. We're talking about HB 2368, which is a toll relief bill. And when I went to go talk to Candy King, I was filled with gratitude, because this is exactly the same thing that we're doing with the commuter choice program. This bill is trying to limit the amount of money that goes, or the Commonwealth citizens pay for tolls at $200 using an electronic monitoring device. It's all in good spirits, but obviously that money is going to come directly from funding that we need for our own commuter choice program. So if we do not meet a threshold, which I believe is $28.7 million, we won't have funds for the commuter choice program. So unfortunately, we had to oppose, and Candy was very amenable about it. I think that in Richmond, everyone realizes how important and critical Northern Virginia transportation infrastructure is to the entire state. So it's really, really wonderful to go into offices with Amy and discuss this, and everyone's on board. So we're going to keep our eye on that. Delegate King is definitely aware that this would be a disparate impact on funding for Northern Virginia and all the transportation infrastructure. So we're still working on it. And to be quite frank, I'm not really sure if it has a ton of legs, but we'll keep an eye on it and see how it goes. But if you have any further questions on that bill, just let me know.
Great. Thank you, Carter. Appreciate that. And a couple other bills, like last year, we are following the VRE bills that are dealing with the tax exemption for surplus lines of insurance. And so we're going to continue to work on those bills. Delegate Laura Jane Cohen's bill has actually already been reported out of subcommittee 8-0. That'll be up in full finance committee on Monday. And so we're expecting that bill to go through just like it did last year, about 100-0. Again, it got kind of hung up in Senate Finance, so we're still working on the Senate side to true up those issues that they're having in the Senate Finance Committee staff. And then the final bill that we worked on was one of our commissioners' bills. Senator Adam Eben had a bill, Senate Bill 876, that was dealing with posting of agendas. We worked really closely with the Virginia Coalition for Open Government, whose bill it was, to make a bunch of amendments that make it a much more palatable bill. We worked with VML as well as some of the localities. And so there was a substitute bill offered in committee yesterday and was accepted and has gone through the full committee of general laws unanimously. And so all it does now is say that agendas have to be posted. And if there are any changes to those agendas, those also have to be posted on the website of the public body. So that would be NVTC would post their changes. You can post them all the way up to when the meeting starts. And then you can still vote on items that are posted until when that meeting starts. And then if the meeting starts and you have a new item, you can also put it on the agenda. And if it is a time sensitive issue, you can vote on it during the meeting. So not an emergency, which has a much more specific meaning. We went with time sensitive, which was a little bit broader. So you can deal with things like if they come up and you have to write a letter, or if there's any procurement issues that folks have, or grants and things like that. There's a time sensitive piece in there. So everybody's on board with that, and that bill has passed at the moment. So it'll head to the floor. There is no House version of that bill. It's just a Senate version. So that's about all the bills we're looking at. Happy to answer any questions so you guys can get on with the rest of the agenda.
Well, after that, are there any questions?
Is there a definition of time sensitive within the bill, or is that subject to interpretation?
It is the latter, and that was done so for a reason, to provide more flexibility.
Actually, Mr. Chair. Amy Carter, Matt and I just wanted to make you aware, I don't know, in Maryland, Delegate Corman and Senator Augustine have introduced a bill that would index WMATA's capital, would provide an indexing for it, because right now we don't have any indexing at all.
Okay.
So just keep an eye on it. They do have language in there about the district in Maryland or Virginia having to do something for it to be enacted, but they are having a hearing on it soon. They are, serious about it. So it's pretty straightforward bill. But, you should be aware of it.
Okay. Yeah, and the impact on the compact. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sorry. One more item.
Right, I just wanted to mention the report. Yeah.
Yeah, real quick for transit focus federal grant opportunities. With the changes from the new administration, we are very much in a holding pattern to see what's going to happen with the federal programs. But there's an excellent chart in the reading materials that lists federal grant opportunities for transit that are still moving forward, and that concludes my report.
Yeah, thanks. And I just, for the record, I'm not stating any view on that insurance bill because I work with the transit street undertaking. So next item on the agenda, the report from the sheriff.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We just wrapped up the I-95 and 95 commuter choice applications period, having closed in mid-December. So I'm happy to turn it over once again to our program manager, Danielle Nickelbein, for an update on the applications we received for this program or project.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Patek. So NVTC received 15 applications from 6 unique applicants. proposed funding request of $37.5 million. 15 applications and 12 bus service enhancement projects, of which 9 are proposed continuations of enhancements funded in prior rounds, 1 new bus route, 1 commuter rail station improvement project, and 1 multi-use trail project. 5 applications were submitted by OmniRide, 3 from Fairfax County, 2 each from Arlington, Dash, and WMATA, and 1 application was submitted by BRE. So staff have begun the eligibility review to ensure that project applications meet the requirements of the I-395 MOA and program policy. So that eligibility determination includes a review to ensure project applications demonstrate a benefit to toll payers of the express lanes, improve person throughput, have a logical nexus to the 395 corridor, and can obligate funding within 2 years of award, and expend all commuter choice funds within 5 years of award. The 15 applications total funding request of $37.5 million is more than the $25 to $30 million available in new funding. That is after an off the top award of $10 million in previously approved funding for the Fairfax County Richmond Highway BRT project, which received a $20 million award in the previous 395 commuter choice cycle and is split across 2 programs. So in April, the Joint Commission Working Group, which is made up of 3 commissioners, each from NVTC and PRTC, will convene to review application scores and to identify and endorse a draft program of projects. That program will also be shared with the full commissions, and the CTB will be briefed in May, along with any public comments received to help inform final decision making. We're anticipating of a final program of projects from both NVTC and PRTC, as well as the CTB this June. So with that, I am happy to answer any question.
Does have any questions? Yeah, let's go report. Now I understand. So that's what we're going to do. See that I'm having increase with 50%. That's the reason. No, we can put it up in state. It's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just as again, we came with the budget, we actually presented the executive committee, you know, that was brought it here to the board. We did put that out for public comment along with our work plan. We received 2 public comments on our work plan. One was from a former commissioner, Mr. Meyer from Fairfax. And we also received one from Clark Mercer, who is Washington Cog. Both of them were actually supportive of the work that we're doing. So those are the 2 public comments that we received. When it comes to the budget, we did provide a pretty detailed overview, but just as a general reminder, most of the funding for NVTC comes off the top of state aid. There's about 72% of it. And when it comes to sort of the cost of running NVTC versus that level, it's about we're running about overhead of about 1.2%, which is really, you know, something I'm actually very proud of when you look at other sort of overhead rates and things. Other things that do pay for us, just because it's important to remember, we do get some of the money off the top of the commuter choice program to help us administer that program, as well as we do get a small amount of direct contribution from the jurisdictions. That's a number value that actually helps to increase since the 90s, I believe. So again, we've got a lot of things. We went over all the things we've got going on, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But I think we did everything on the budget, and it's contained within the
That's okay. If you have questions or comments either about the budget or plan. Either one without the other. Right? That's right. Thanks. Motion to approve the 6 budget and work plan.
So moved.
Thank you. Again, seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is the Virginia Railway Express. Is, we'll have a presentation from the officers, and then certainly want to congratulate Sarah on appointment as mayor and you are in operations bureau. Is this something I don't know?
This will be the first time as chair.
First time as chair, because you've been on the board before. So, Sarah, do you want to introduce the DRE items?
Do you want to do the CEO report first? And then do the items? So I think I saw Rich just join us.
Oh, there he is.
There he is, yeah. So we're gonna hand it over to VDRE CEO Rich Dalton for his CEO report.
Okay, thank you, chairs, plural. And good to see everybody else. I'll just, you do have the CEO report in your package. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Ridership similar in December, or similar compared to November, primarily because of the holidays and stuff, of course, was slightly down compared to previous months. On-time performance did tick up for us at about 83%. I did want to note that, of course, at the beginning of the month, we did end up canceling about 50 trains as it relates to winter weather storm Blair. And then, of course, we canceled service altogether Monday, the day of at least the bulk of the storm. And then gradually throughout the week brought service back. This week, of course, we've seen some, definitely some uptick in ridership, but nonetheless, I'll report that back out at the next commission meeting, but I did want to point that out. As mentioned, we do have a couple of action items. So again, if anybody has any questions or anything about VRE service, glad to answer them, but prepared to move on to those action items. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Rich Dalton? Okay, I'm seeing any, Sarah.
Before us tonight are two action items. The first is item 12B, which is resolution number 2553 to adopt and refer VRE FY 2025 revised budget and FY 2026 budget to the jurisdictions. For action 12B, the VRE Operations Board recommends commission approval of resolution 2553, which will adopt and refer VRE's FY 2025 revised budget and the FY 2026 budget to the jurisdictions. The commission received budget updates from VRE staff at the October and December meetings. The recommended FY 2026 budget is balanced with no funding gap and with all projected expenditures in FY 26 supported by reasonably expected sources of funding. VRE Chief Financial Officer Mark Schofield is here to speak to the budget, and I'll turn it over to Mark.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Commission members. I'm happy to just hit a couple of highlights on this that we've had in the past. Be happy to answer questions. Looking at our capital program, our 6-year capital program has a total cost of approximately $1.4 billion across 8 major program areas. As you know, our program evolves every year as older projects get completed, as newer projects get added, and as the scopes and schedules and budgets change according to the conditions there on the ground. We had 3 major projects drop out this year after they opened, which is great. That's the Quantico Station and the Station. We do have 2 new program areas listed here that you wouldn't have seen last year. That is track and structures, reflecting our plan to add new crossovers on both lines, and then property acquisition down there at the bottom, which of course reflects the pending agreements that we to purchase the property interests. The next. This is the same amount of money, the 1.4 billion, now showing where the revenues are coming from. I think the key point to note here really is the leveraging that the local jurisdictions are able to achieve. We take those last 2 numbers, the local and the VRE, it's about $62 million, leveraging into nearly $1 billion committed. Actually, we can skip these. These are just some nice pretty pictures. Next slide, thank you. So into the operating budget. Thank you. Our proposed operating budget is $115 million for next year. That gross expense budget is slightly lower by about $3 million compared to the current year. That is due to changes in these on the Manassas line and also the completion of one of our rail car debt agreements. However, both of those expense items are largely grant reimbursed, so the net impact on the bottom line is actually pretty modest. Next slide, please. I would be happy to talk about any of these expense highlights if you would like. I really would like to get in one of them, which is number 2 there, the insurance. This is something that's taking up more space in my brain these days. The amount of insurance that we have to purchase is increasing because we have new coverage, terrorism, and cybersecurity, and also because we have higher coverage levels for property and for excess liability. And at the same time that we're being asked to buy more, the capacity in the international insurance market that we have to buy in is really being squeezed. So even with our safety record, practices, all of that, our premiums are continuing. So we are engaging with our insurance broker, with DRM down in Richmond, with the Commuter Rail Coalition, because this is not just a DRE problem. And we do expect to bring additional discussions on this topic to the operations board and to the commissions. Next slide, please. We are projecting right now weekday ridership of 8,000 in FY26. I want to be clear that this does not include any adjustment for the potential actions that might be taken by the incoming administration. That might impact our ridership either positively or negatively. We should have a better grasp on these impacts by the beginning of the fiscal year in July. And so, of course, we will continue to bring back news on that to the board. We also are looking forward to reinstating the Amtrak Step-Up program, where the passengers who have a valid multi-ride ticket on DRE can purchase a Step-Up ticket and ride an Amtrak train within our service area. And we are grateful to the Commuter Choice Grant that we've gotten to help us offset the costs of that program. Next slide. So just to wrap it up, we are in a challenging environment. We're trying to achieve the right balance again between the passengers, the jurisdictions, our other partners. We hope that this is the right way to do it, and we are really trying to get back onto our sort of pre-pandemic policy of alternating increases every other year between the passengers and the jurisdictions, and that is the path that we are on right now. So thank you very much. It's a lot of fun. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I just, before we move on to the second action, I truly want to commend DRE staff for the work that went into this budget. Mark sort of raced through it, but some big themes are like service remains consistent. We're delivering the same service. There are cost efficiencies that have been identified. The burden to the jurisdiction it's been thoughtfully considered over the years, and so I think a lot of really good work and long-term work went into this budget. We're very proud of having approved it, at the DRE level. So I don't know.
Just to add a couple of comments. Besides commending DRE staff for excellent work under very difficult conditions, because DRE is far more difficult to recover its ridership for obvious structural reasons, and for example, etc. So we had some robust conversation about the contribution of individual jurisdictions. For Northern Virginia is less of an issue than it is for the jurisdiction more to our south. So one thing that says last slide actually that shows that the level of subsidy is coming now back to where it was in 2021, so before the pandemic. So basically, and we had a conversation that it wasn't the best idea that we ever had to reduce that subsidy so abruptly during the pandemic. All due respect to the pressures of the time, this probably was a lesson in that we should take subsidies away. Sorry, like that, but it's very difficult. So, and I fully agree that the idea of this budget is to maintain and improve the service. So remember, we added service, very smart ways, and we provided the weekend. So this is really critical to get to enhance the kind of ridership that we have. So thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of history with the jurisdictional subsidies. I just point out without delaying the conversation too long. Fairfax County is one of the highest paying jurisdictions. We're not that far south. So we are very much into it. At some point, there probably needs to be a more comprehensive review of the cost across jurisdictions. Because frankly, I'm not convinced that the way that it's structured now reflects the benefit provided in each jurisdiction. That'll be something for the future, and in the meantime, I'm very happy.
And as you know, Arlington was never trying to have this conversation. We are also paying a little bit more than under the formula, exactly because of that.
Thanks, yeah.
Well, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that. We spent a fair amount of time, well, a lot of time talking about the balance between passenger revenue as well as jurisdictional subsidies, as well as frankly the funding cliff, which we are going to have unless things change. Now, part of the way the board has managed that over the years is that we recognize it's coming, and really, I would say staff particularly has done an excellent job of making sure that we're aware of that. And I would say shepherding the dollars, but it's coming. And from my perspective, and differences of opinion, of course, we're going to need more than 3 years, 4 years to get there. So anything we can save now by having a little bit higher jurisdictional stuff, subsidy, or having a little bit higher passenger fares is going to be money that we can then save to use some of the federal dollars a little bit later too, because I think, again, I personally believe it's going to take beyond budget to, it's what, 29, is that what it is?
28.
28. So that's basically 2 years away. So we know that that's real. There is reluctance by some jurisdictions to pay more, whether it's the individuals that budgets themselves. I know the system, and that's what I wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure if you were referring specifically to the passenger counting system and the formula for value of passengers. The passenger value is based upon what they're likely to pay, the value are, the more the passenger pays, and therefore those jurisdictions get a little bit more of a benefit from that. And whether that's appropriate or not is probably a larger question, and one that would be sticky, but one regardless, because of all the different passenger issues we have, we can't get past. I mean, Metro has had, I would say, easier time with that, even though I know we're not where we should be, but I think for all of us, we know it's going to take longer. And I'm not one of those that believes somehow or other because the federal government is going to be miraculously coming back to or generate more passenger. And we are, as a board, again, as a board, we've looked at all that. We think Saturday service helps to change some of the mentality about what BRE is and what it should be going forward. So I want to at least give everybody a sense of that, and please share your comments and insights with us, because we know some of what we have to deal with is going to take more than a year or two to get there, at least to get a consensus about it. Because we already have some questions about whether some jurisdictions fully committed to making their subsidy payments this year for the next budget year. So that I think will tell a lot about some of those discussions and how serious they'll need to be to protect the system. I know that we all believe is essential for the long term. Northern Virginia, I believe all of you should.
So I hope everybody at this board at least appreciates that there's some really detailed and robust conversation happening at the VRE level when you vote on the budget tonight here. The other action that we're being asked to take is on resolution 2554, to authorize the VRE CEO to submit on behalf of the commission the joint VRE VPRA application to the US DOT Protect FY 2025 planning grant. This grant application is for a study on the impacts of future adverse climate conditions on VRE's operating territory, including infrastructure not owned by the commission, but by partners such as the Virginia Pedestrian Rail Authority, CXT, and Level 7. We'll look at the magnitude and severity of the rail operations caused by extreme heat, inland flooding, and intensifying storms with extreme wind and rain. If authorized, VRE would apply as the lead applicant funding for this study under the planning track of the US DOT program, with VPRA serving as the joint applicant for this submittal. And I would just add to it, we heard from Rudolph tonight about the many trains that were canceled or delayed due to weather conditions. So this is a very real issue for VRE. In the summer, we have heat conditions that often slow the trains down and have impact. So I was very excited to see this grant application. I'm going to keep going then. 12B is the 2025 VRE Operations Officers. This is an informational item. I'd like to report at their December meeting, the VRE Ops Board appointed the following officers for 2025. Myself as chair, Andrea Bailey of PRTC as vice chair, Mr. Stork, my colleague here as the secretary, and Lori Hayes from PRTC as treasurer. The installation of the VRE officers will take place at the meeting tomorrow morning, about 12 hours from now, at PRTC. So those are the two action items, or 3 action items and 1 information item.
Well, do any commissioners have any comments from VRE staff or Sarah regarding these actions? No objections to a block vote. I would like to abstain from the budget again because there's an insurance issue apparently in the budget. Nothing whatsoever to do, so it's okay if we can not do a block vote on this and we'll just do these 2 actions. I did have a question about the grant application. Whether the grant's also going to suggest things that the rail system can do to mitigate. You may not know the answer to that, but it's one thing to say, well, these are the potential effects due to extreme weather, but that's great, but is there any expertise provided on mitigating in response to that?
I'm gonna, but my recollection of the conversation that's leading to that, it was not simply to study the effects, but it was to talk about, preparation and ways to reduce, but, VRE, Rich just jumped back on.
Rich?
Yeah, let me just add to that. So, let's just say, for example, if there's a potential area of concern or interest, this grant will also help develop a concept for mitigation. And again, concept, right? So, in the world of, design engineering and stuff like that, give us enough information to where we could have a concept to mitigate that potential issue, at the 10% level. And then we would have to take that, beyond, go through our normal processes and stuff like that and turn that into an actual, mitigation project. So if that helps.
Any other questions, comments about these 2 actions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2553, which is to adopt and refer VRE's FY 2025 without opening 2026 budget to the jurisdictions. So, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Well, I abstain. That passes. Next item on the agenda is resolution 4, authorizing VRE to submit on behalf of the commission to show VRE or application the US DOT Protect 2026 planning grants. Let me make sure you got the motion. No, it says 2025-2025. 20. Yep. Let's just double check. So the action, the motion is to entertain to approve resolution 2554, authorizes the CEO to submit on behalf of the commission to join the other the USDA to protect FY 2024-2025.
That is elected for the resolution.
If the summary is 2025. Trying to take that motion to a motion.
So no.
Thanks. There's a second. Any discussion?
Who seconded?
All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thanks very much. Next item on the agenda is a DRPT report. I want to thank Tiffany Robinson. We've been extremely fortunate to have really good DRPT directors, and Tiffany is very much in that stream and good relationship, constructive relationship is absolutely fundamental to our success here and the success around the state. Tiffany's played a key role in that, so thank you so very, very much for your work.
Thank you.
You're a very fast learner, and there's a lot to learn, and you've really mastered it. So thanks a lot. You have a report that you want to make tonight.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, for those kind words. In the interest of time, I absolutely will not read my report to you. It's in your packet. It's very brief. But I do want to give just a really quick personnel update from my team. We have a new deputy director at DRPT. Jennifer Mayton has served as our CAO for several years, and she has been in charge of IT, HR, procurement, facilities management. She's fantastic, and she's now our deputy director. She was promoted at the end of December and just really makes our leadership team even stronger. So if you haven't met her, I hope you will reach out. We have a fabulous Northern Virginia team here that I know you work with closely. But if you need somebody in Richmond and you can't reach me, we now have a deputy that can step in and have some additional authority. I also wanted to quickly follow up on agenda item 5C for Loudoun County, because I do have an answer, and there is a 20% local match requirement to our demonstration grants. So for example, your request was the $2 million and that was granted, Loudoun County would be responsible for a $400,000 match. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hope to see you when we go to Richmond on January. So,
absolutely, I'll be there.
thank you so very much for all the work. It's really important to have a great relationship.
Thank you.
Any questions for
And Tiffany, you've broken the long line of Jennifers.
Happy to do that.
Okay, thanks. Next item is the executive director report. Kate?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, we've got lots of great materials. The executive director newsletter has lots of photos actually from our legislative event and other things. I always want to point your attention to. You'll get a digital copy very soon. Just as a reminder, we are encouraging our commissioners to attend the VTA, Virginia Transit Association Legislative Day on Monday, January 27th. There's going to be a program starting about 10 o'clock in the morning and it ends in the evening with a reception at Main Street Station. At 5 o'clock, it's my understanding, the Northern Virginia delegation will be hosting a transit themed, their meeting will be focused, and I think Randy Clark and several members of the board will be there for that at 5 o'clock. I don't have the room number yet, but I'm certainly get that information out to those who are attending. We had talked about having an NVTC reception down in the General Assembly. The idea was to do it when VACO and VML had their joint government day. This year, they're doing 2 different days. And so rather than having you come back a third time, we're focusing on January 27th. Like to come down that time, please do for that. Our next meeting, so we don't have a commission meeting in February, but we do have a committee meeting. We actually have all of our committees are going to be meeting on February 20th. Upstairs, we have the Program Advisory Committee meeting at 4:30. We have the Joint WMATA Committee and Legislative and Policy Committee meeting at 6. And so we are, as I mentioned earlier, we're probably going to see a lot of activity with those committees over the course of the year as we have a number of different things that are going on. The meeting scheduled for the year, we did actually put that out for you, which, obviously things do change, but this is, usually pretty firm. So feel free to share that with your aides or get that into your own calendars. And so, again, we have a lot of both committee and commission meetings that are happening. The next thing is it's always sad, or it's always happy. I'm gonna start with the very happy. It's always happy to see the amazing talents of MBKC get with their wings and seeing them fly to other places. Which since we last met in December, we actually have 2 of our staff be given wings to fly to friends and family. So Brittany Sumner, who was, we would not have seen her here, but she actually ran all of our procurements, contracts, and grants. And she is now the proud employee of VRE. You're welcome. Not leaving yet, who will be leaving is Monique Blyther, who has been our communications and outreach manager. A lot of the movies, films that you've seen, including the documentary, are a big part of the talents that Monique has. And you may be familiar with the former commissioner's name, where she's going to be she's going to be working for Katie Crystal at the Tyson's Community Alliance. And so we are going to, Brittany's not here, so we can't sort of applaud and thank her, but Monique is, and so we should applaud and thank her. We have financial reports. Happy, I think Scott was joined online. He wasn't feeling well this evening. Happy to answer any questions, but that does conclude my report.
Any questions or comments for Dave? All right, well, we're on our agenda. Does anybody have anything? We're okay on the election.
Thank you, yes.
Anything else? Seeing none, understand the motion.